Hey, welcome to Hot Route Takes. Today, we're going to do our NFC and AFC West rankings um, ahead of the 2023 NFL season, and we're only a couple weeks out. Last time, I started first on the NFC and AFC South rankings. Today, Christian, you care to go first?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right,
And we're starting on the NFC West, correct?
correct.
All right, then. I think everyone's probably going to have this team last, and I have the Arizona Cardinals. I just think the big key on this team is no Kyler Murray. You can say what you want about the guy, but he at least can guarantee you some wins, definitely over Colt McCoy. And just notable all-season additions they added was Paris Johnson Jr. in the draft. Maybe to me, maybe one of the best tackles in the draft. You can easily say. Zach Pascal, wide receiver, and then also got their new head coach in Jonathan Gannon, which I think is a great add for them because they've been so offensive heavy. Offensive coach, just it's been their main focus pretty much since they got in their new GM and all that coming in. They went defense, and I think that's just a big thing for them because their defense just been so awful. I think last year they averaged third most points allowed, and I just think other than Buda Baker, there isn't really any talent on this defense. I mean, it's just a bunch of lower guys. I mean, Isaiah Simmons is there. I mean, I'm big on Isaiah Simmons, but this year they're moving him to a slot corner role. So I don't know how good he is going to perform in that role. That's just something he hasn't done yet in the NFL level. They've kind of been making him play linebacker and put him back there in safety in some formations. But I just think without Kyler Murray, there isn't anything that's telling me they're going to win a lot of games this year with Colt McCoy or whoever else in that matter they have starting. So the only thing I can think of is James Conner and Hollywood Brown as their only weapons on offense. So I just think it's going to be a rough year for Arizona.
I'm with you. Like this probably should be the consensus like top three pick in the draft team among all of us. There's a few bad teams out there. Some we've touched on already last week, but this one, man, it's no Kyler Murray. It's going to be a long year for Colt McCoy and those guys. And what you touched on a little bit, Christian, on the defensive side of the ball, who is there to get excited about besides Buda Baker and Isaiah Simmons? And then last year they already struggled on that end. They allowed the highest completion percentage to all the teams in the NFL, letting opposing quarterbacks complete almost 70% of their passes. Like that's just not going to do anything as far as it's going to get your defense tired. The offense was terrible, so they couldn't sustain drives. Defense was always out there. Like it was just a mess, especially when Kyler went down. Just really expect more of the same this year. The offense wasn't doing anything to throw the ball deep. They averaged the lowest yards per attempt last year as well, just right around 6 yards per attempt. With no Kyler Murray, don't really figure that to go anywhere up. And Hollywood being your only kind of weapon on the outside, who I just saw a video. I don't know if y'all saw it today, but he was getting locked up by one of the Vikings corners in training camp. So like, who is there to be excited about? I guess if you're a Cardinals fan, hopefully Caleb Williams, because that's the way it's treading. And no knock on Kyler because he's a great guy, but they're just in need of a reset as a franchise. And as you mentioned, the new head coach is a move in the right direction. I think Kingsbury is one of the worst coaches in the NFL, so I'm good on them for moving on from that finally. And hopefully they just find some good young core players in the next year's draft.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%. I think Cliff Kingsbury set this franchise back 10 years, man. Like, good night. It was bad. It was rough. And like you guys said, I don't want to beat the drum too much here, but they do have very little on defense. You guys mentioned Buda Baker. We all know about him, all-star player. But Isaiah Simmons, I think he could actually have a breakout season, if you will, this year. Maybe, when you're one of the only good players on the defense, it's kind of hard to have a breakout season just because normally the offense runs towards the weakest links of the defense, and Isaiah Simmons is going to be one of the strongest parts of the defense, and that's sad in its own right. But he's been moved around a little too much, I think, for a young player and not been able to settle in a certain position. I think he's got all the physical talent in the world, man. I mean, he's a freak athletically. It's just about piecing it together mentally for him. And I think if he stays in one spot, that will happen. And then as far as some of the other players on defense, I did want to shout out, if you are a Cardinals fan, you are hoping that these guys become something. And that's PJ Ojulari, Owen Papo, who's a rookie this year, I believe, middle linebacker. Or weak side linebacker, either one of the two. Zaven Collins, which was a first-round pick, and I believe 2021 early pick. Majay Sanders as well, another early edge rusher. So they just need some of these guys to kind of step up and be something, and I guess that's kind of what they are hoping for this year, being a rebuilding year, being such a paper-thin roster with, clear intentions of trying to pick high next year, because it's rough, man. Offensively, you got nothing, man. Nothing. Especially with Kyler Murray out. James Conner has always just kind of been like, I had no feelings for him. He doesn't move the needle for me. And then Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, I'm sorry, Chase. He never moved the needle for me either.
Yeah.
He's a decent number 2 guy, I think.
Yeah.
Rondell Moore, geez, dude. Nope. That's their receiver 2 right now. And that is not good. And I really think the Cardinals over the last couple seasons have been the Kyler Murray show. It's been a spread offense. Watch Kyler go to work, and I have an interesting parallel here. I think Kyler Murray is like the Russell Westbrook of the NFL. Like, he can carry a bad team, but I don't think he's ever going to win a championship. And I don't ever think he's going to be a player that fits in to a championship team. I think he's just a guy that can make stuff happen, and he will be that. But I don't think he's ever going to be an elite quarterback. And so the Cardinals' direction going forward is quite muddy, and I am not optimistic at all about now or the future. Maybe they can change my mind, but yeah, sorry to the Cardinals fans out there. They're going through it.
Yeah, I agree. Number 3, I have the Los Angeles Rams. Last year, they did go 5-12, but I think we do have to remember any star on this team went down. Matthew Stafford, Aaron Donald, Cooper Kupp, all their key guys went down. But also, with me saying that, this offseason did not help them. They lost Jalen Ramsey, Taylor Rapp, Nick Scott, and lost corner Troy Hill, and linebacker Leonard Floyd and Bobby Wagner. It's a lot of pieces on defense, and that's kind of what led them to their Super Bowl run. So I just think they hadn't really done much to replace any of these pieces. Granted, I just think, my big thing on this team is Matthew Stafford. I don't know if I can get behind Matthew Stafford anymore at this point in his age. The injuries have built up. He has a spine injury. So does that just mean one big hit and he's out the rest of the year? So I just think you have Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald, and that just does not get you to the playoffs, I think. Definitely in this division, it's going to be a tough division with these other 2 teams that I think we're going to talk about next. But I just think Matthew Stafford go down, you have Stetson Bennett starting. Stetson Bennett is great and all, but I just don't think he's ready to be an NFL starter with no help going from a Georgia elite offense to a Cooper Kupp-led Rams offense. But other than that, I just think this is what happened when, you dip all your chips in, go for a Super Bowl run, ultimately win that Super Bowl. But this is kind of what you get. All right, well, you got what you wanted. This is what you get for doing what you wanted at the end of the day. So, I just think the Rams are going to have I think they can turn it around maybe in the next 3 to 5 years just because of their coaching staff. But any other team would have to be rebuilding for, at least a decade.
At least a decade.
You weren't wrong, Christian. Like, I have the Rams at 3 as well. And you're talking about all the subtractions and how they really didn't do anything to supplement that and add back to the roster. Well, like you touched on, simple fact is they don't have the draft assets to replenish, and they traded all away for the guys to make that Super Bowl run possible. Good on them for getting it. That's what the end goal for every franchise. So when you accomplish it, you gotta tip your hat and move on. Right now, they're facing the repercussions as you're talking about. And yeah, man, who is there to get excited about on the offense? Your wide receiver 2 is looking like Van Jefferson, I guess. Like, if teams just key in on Cooper Kupp, it could get ugly for the offense and moving the ball. They've yet to establish a run game for a while now. I know they never really needed to, but it helps an offense, especially an aging Matt Stafford, to have some sort of a run game to lean on. And then the defense, just so many losses, and then it's hopefully a healthy Aaron Donald making impact plays. But those few guys, they're not enough to upend the better two rosters in the division, in my opinion. So I think they'll win a few games against the sorry teams, beat who they should beat, but be on the outside looking in. Even though NFC is weaker, I still think they missed the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with both you guys. I got the Rams at 3, and this is what you guys said. A result directly from pushing all their chips in for the Super Bowl, and boy, this roster is, man. If you take away Aaron Donald, Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee, if you want to add Rob Havenstein in there, go ahead. But like, if you take those players away, all their good players, they're much, much worse than the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And if you look at the players that I just mentioned, Rob, the right tackle, he's older. I think he's like 33, 34. Good player still, but aging tackle. And then Cooper Kupp just coming off injury. Matthew Stafford coming off injury. Cam Akers with his injury history. I mean, this could go south real quick to the point where they're actually worse than the Cardinals, is what I'm thinking. But then the other side of it, they have all these top end players at their positions. Aaron Donald's one of the best players in the NFL, period. Cooper Kupp is one of the top wide receivers in the game. Cam Akers, he's got potential. He's a good athlete. And we all know about Matthew Stafford, but he has his own questions. Can he return to his previous level of play? And what happens if Cooper Kupp goes down in this offense? And, Matt Stafford was an Iron Man for years and years and years, playing through injuries. If he can't play, he can't play. And so when he didn't play last year, that was eye-opening because I saw him being someone who paid attention to Detroit. I saw him play through all kinds of injuries, man. Broken finger, lots of stuff. But he just, I don't know, man. I don't think the Rams are going to be very good at all. Even if these guys stay healthy, I think it's going to be like pulling teeth winning games. I think they got 2 easy wins against the Cardinals. But other than that, I don't know, man. I think this could be quite ugly here for the Rams.
Yeah, I'd be excited to see what they kind of move forward and try to do with this roster, to be honest with you. My next team, man, I ain't going to lie, I kind of went back and forth for a while trying to think Seattle and the 49ers, but ultimately I just couldn't get over some of the things with this team I'm about to say, and it's the 49ers at 2. I think it might shock some people, but I just think I can't get behind the whole Brock Purdy hype, maybe saying that he's coming off of the injuries. Sam Darnold is the backup. Trey Lance is in trade talks. But other than the quarterback, this team's, I think, probably the best on the roster, but quarterback ultimately wins you games. And if Christian McCaffrey goes down, Deebo Samuel goes down, George Kittle will go down at some point in the season. I don't really know. I just think they did have the best defense. Their offense was 6th best. And honestly, that's a lot of coaching. But I don't know. I just kind of see them maybe getting not over that Eagles loss the way they went out that game. They did lose defensive coordinator DeMarco Ryan, but replaced him with Stephen Wilkes out of the Panthers, who took over the head coaching job, which I think that was a perfect guy that they could have went out and got for their defense. But I don't know. I just can see their weapons. Yes, it's Deebo, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings, Christian McCaffrey. Then you're looking at Elijah Mitchell, George Kittle. So my big thing is I just think something's going to happen to this quarterback room again, and I just cannot get behind the Sam Darnold's train. And if they do trade Trey Lance, then are we looking at a Josh Johnson or somebody, a veteran, coming in like we did that last game? We've seen without Brock Purdy, this offense just couldn't even move the ball. Granted, that is against probably the best defense that the Eagles have had in a long time, and probably the best we've seen in NFL history. So I just honestly could see, losing, who was it? They lost Mike Maggette off of the offensive line, Jimmy Howard, Emmanuel Mosley. But they did go add Javon Hargrave, who had 11 sacks last year. I think this defensive line is going to be better, but I just don't know about the corners and safeties, and that's why I kind of can see this team I can't go with just one quarterback and who just had a big injury and a guy that was the last pick of the draft and get behind that and think a downfall is not going to happen in his second year.
Wow. Clip it. Hot take.
Yeah, very
The
hot.
hot take of the pod, probably. Because I mean, the NFC is weaker, but in my mind, Philly and San Fran are, especially Philly, they're obvious, but I think San Fran's earned it too, where those two teams are above everybody else, for me at least. I see your Seattle love, and I see the question marks around, a very important position with San Francisco. Um, wasn't enough for me to slide them down. I've got Seattle at 2, and really just a job well done by Pete Carroll last year. No one had expectations for this team, and especially when Gino was announced to be the starter for the year. And man, did he have a magical season. One of my favorite receivers out this draft, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and he's already made some plays in camps, looking very solid. And you pair that with the receiver room they already have, a great run game, which I know Brian loves some Kenneth Walker. They got pieces to put up some points. And you get to the defensive side of the ball, you got a safety duo in Jamal Adams and Diggs that make a pretty top end safety duo in the league. They were top 10 in completion percentage last year at quarterback play and in yards per attempt. So everything they were doing leads you to believe that they are moving the ball on offense, and they've got players in the secondary, especially on defense, to win a lot of ball games. So love the roster, love the coaching. I'm still hesitant on if Geno Smith is a franchise this late in his career to become a franchise QB, someone that can win you multiple playoff games. That's still a question mark for me, and I think that showed the case in the playoffs last year that Geno's good, don't get me wrong, but you put him against the elite defenses like a San Francisco, he still has his hiccups, and but to their credit, they addressed it, got him another weapon in the draft. I love that move. I think they'll still pretty firmly be in playoff contention and have the two seed locked up in this division. And just wasn't enough to put them over a great roster, in my opinion. No knock on them.
Gotcha. I like both y'all's takes here. They're both different than mine. I do have Seattle here, though, but I did go back and forth between these two teams. And the reason why is I just look across San Francisco's roster, and one big thing that stands out like a sore thumb, and Christian said it, is the quarterback position. Trey Lance, I've never been in. I'll never understand it. I'll never understand it. But as a Dolphins fan, I am thankful. Because we got a boatload for them to pick Trey Lance when they could have had Justin Fields. But that's neither here nor there. Brock Purdy coming off injury. Who knows what he'll be like. I do think he ultimately is the answer for the 49ers. It's just a matter of how good is he actually, and how soon will he be at 100%. So, with that, that's unpredictable. That's kind of up in the air. We'll just kind of have to find out when time tells us. But they came out and said Sam Darnold's their quarterback too. And that should worry a lot of San Francisco 49ers fans because of the high investment that was made in Trey Lance. And we all know what Sam Darnold is. That being said, I do think with Sam Darnold's player profile and kind of his strengths and weaknesses, I think the 49ers could be a great fit for him as a player. I think he could actually have a good deal of success with the 49ers if he does play. They got weapons all over the place, and Kyle Shanahan's one of the, if actually probably the best play caller in the NFL. And then they got guys, man. But we're here to talk about Seattle here with my number 2. And I do think Seattle is really good, man. I was teetering between going back and forth between these two teams. And the main reason, like I had talked about quarterback, but also injuries. 49ers went 6-10, I believe, in 2020. And they had a record high 18 players go on injured reserve. Their team fell apart. And this team could fall apart too. So this is the reason why I had them going back and forth. But that's no shot at Seattle. Seattle's got a really good roster in their own right. Geno Smith, you touched on him, Chase. I do think he is a second or third tier quarterback. He's not exactly the quarterback that's going to go out there and win games on his own, but he's definitely a guy I think they can go to the playoffs with and potentially win some playoff games if they're healthy. But the big thing I want to see from Seattle this year is the running game cooking. they got Kenneth Walker and they took Zach Charbonnet in the second round. And I think that has the potential to be one of the deadliest running back duos in the NFL. And then you can play action off of that and have DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. Man, Noah Fant in the fray as well. With a pretty good offensive line, this second-year player, Charles Cross, is only going to be better. And then, kind of piece it in here and there. But on the defensive side of the ball, they got a young star in Tariq Woolen. Not far behind Sauce Gardner, if you ask me, but, he doesn't play for the Jets. So, and then Devin Witherspoon, first-round pick, should be a stud, fits their defense to a T. Quandre Diggs, they're going to play this cover 3 stuff, and it's going to work. They got the right players to do it. Bobby Wagner. One player that I want to stand out that could almost act as an X factor for this defense is Boye Mafe. Early round pick in 2020 or 2021. Maybe it was second round, but freak of nature athletically, man. A freak of nature. And he plays the outside linebacker position for them. He'll be rushing in their 3-4 defense, and I do think he could be that player that could take the next step and really put this defense over the top, because they need a couple guys to do that for this defense, because they look to me like they're in win now mode, so they need these guys to step up quickly, and I think it's been proven the last couple of years that can happen, as long as you surround these rookies in the right environment, and I think that's what they're doing here, and I really like this team, man. I really think Jackson Smith and Jigba playing in the slot's only going to allow DK Metcalf to get more targets down the field, because they're going to have to pay attention to that man in the slot. And that, also that goes without saying, Tyler Lockett on the other side. So, yeah, I think this team's set up, man. Team set up to be competitive and push the Niners. I think it's really 1A, 1B. As far as I'm concerned, just from the worries you could have for the 49ers.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna just build on kind of what you said with my number one team in Seattle. I think, Seattle's going to be a fun team to watch. I think they're going to have a bunch of home run plays, not just in the passing game, but what Brian said in the running game. I think a lot of people didn't think they would see this out of Geno. He played a top 10 quarterback. He threw for 4,200 yards, 30 touchdowns, with only 11 interceptions. I don't think, I agree with your take. Geno's probably a tier 2 guy, but if he can improve on this and have top 10 quarterback stats, this team's going to look even better with, like you said, they have a DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Smith-Njigba coming in there. It's just going to help this. And Tyler Lockett, I don't know what it is. I know we don't talk a lot of fantasy football on this team or on this pod, but this guy in fantasy football is always a top 15 wide receiver. It blows my mind till you think he's getting older. DK's going to replace him. Tyler Lockett's just one of those guys. He don't take shots. He doesn't take hits. He gets out the way. He'll slide down like a quarterback before he gets hit. I don't understand how he plays like that, but he just knows the hits is going to save his career. So I just think adding a Smith-Njigba to that offense and these 2 wide receivers there to teach him even more, I think big things are going to happen in this passing game with Geno. And then, I'd like to add kind of what Brian said about Charles Cross. He came in there and protected Geno great last year. I think he's just going to get better in that too. Then I just think maybe we see Seattle going back, like Brian said, not like so much like Marshawn Lynch level, but I expect them to run the ball this year. They have 2 great running backs. I can see it be a good Lightning Thunder duo. And I just think they didn't lose anything this offseason. They went and added Julian Love, another safety to this team. And I think the heart and soul of Seattle and Bobby Wagner's coming back. And to me, that was their weakest thing to me last year was the linebacker room. And they went and got a vet in Bobby Wagner who honestly looked good for the Rams. It just the team was so hurt and so bad, you just didn't get to hear or see enough love for Bobby Wagner. And then my most exciting part is when you had Woodland on one side, and then they went and got a Devin Witherspoon. And that was my number 1 corner coming out of the draft. I love the guy. He's a headhunter, plays on a mission. If both of these guys can come in and be lockdown corners, which I kind of expect, and they went and got Jackson Smith-Njigba, they had a great draft. I think people kind of sleep on their draft. I only expect great things out of Seattle, and that's why I think they're going to win this division just because they have the depth that the 49ers don't have.
Okay. Heard, Christian. I see your Seattle love and recognize all the talent on that roster, man. It's going to be a fun team to watch, as you touched on. I'm still rolling with the Niners, and I want to point out a few reasons on this because they've just been a top-end franchise for a long time now. And despite the mediocre quarterback play they've had for what seems like years, they've played in Super Bowls with them, with it be a electric Kaepernick at his time and then Jimmy G against the Chiefs. They're finding a way to win playoff games. They got great coaching. And for me, it's the top-end talent at their positions that they have multiple places. Trent Williams, arguably the best offensive lineman, maybe the best player in football. Nick Bosa, arguably the best pass rusher in football. Then you got guys like Fred Warner, arguably the best middle linebacker in football. Like, how do you trump that type of talent at those important positions, really? And then you get guys in the mix like Dre Greenlaw, who doesn't get hardly any love, but he is a hell of a football player.
Yes, he is.
That's just defense. I think it's so sound. One of the best defenses in football. I have no worries about them unless a key player goes down. Offense, when you get into QB play, you can get a little bit more worrisome, but they're surrounded with a great line, great weapons, and Debo and Ayuk, and then McCaffrey in the backfield was a home run trade for them. He's such a great gadget for a mind like Shanahan to have to use at his disposal. I think it's built to make a QB's life easy, no matter who it's going to be. I think we all assume it's going to be Purdy. It's built for that QB to just hit your marks, take what's there, and don't turn the football over, and you're going to win a lot of football games. The talent is enormous everywhere else, and I think Purdy will do a good job at that. He showed the flashes in the playoffs at making plays off schedule, making a few throws that other QBs haven't been able to make in that system, and that type of play takes their ceiling to potential Super Bowl if they get that Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he's going to be that guy, but at the end of the day, I think he's going to be good enough to keep them a very, very good team and the division winners, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm with you, Chase. I got the 49ers at 1-2, and really what made me make this decision is I was comparing these two rosters, and I was really going back and forth, man. I really was. But I talked about the negatives with the 49ers, and I think that's the quarterback room in general. I don't really, even if Brock Purdy is that guy, it was scary. Yeah. This whole process. They got really lucky too. Mr. Irrelevant coming in and saving the day. Because boy, if they were having a roll with Trey Lance this year, that would be a waste of a roster, really. The things that made me decide were, one, the coaching. Pete Carroll's a good coach and all. Kyle Shanahan's on another level. He is just elite. He's the best play caller in the game, and you see all of the coaches coming off of his coaching tree. Everyone wants the next Kyle Shanahan. Okay? No one's talking about the next Pete Carroll. You see what I'm saying? He's another tier above. That's no shot at Pete Carroll. That's just shouting out the greatness of Kyle Shanahan and who he is. And then the second thing is this defense, man. Defense is stellar. It's the best defense in the league, and it's in its own category. No one can touch them. They run so many great concepts. They have so much versatility on the back end. Their linebackers are just phenomenal at covering the middle of the field. And I know, for being a Dolphins fan, I watched Miami eat up the middle of the field all season long. Then we did play the Chargers. That was ugly, but that was a different story. They clogged the middle of the field like ridiculously, man. I'm talking about Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw just covering so much space, man. Like, it was ridiculous, the amount of space they were able to cover. And when you're able to cover that much space and be so versatile on the back end, whilst having these pass rushers and being able to get home organically without blitzing, that just makes for a great defense. And like I said, they got guys on every level on this defense. And it's going to be tough to move the ball no matter how good your offense is. And so I think the defense alone, despite what happens at quarterback, will be enough for this team to go to the playoffs. And it's all on the quarterback and the offense to figure it out to determine how deep in the playoffs they actually go. And I really think 49ers are set up, man, to have a great season and potentially go to the Super Bowl. The NFC's pretty weak. So,
yeah, I like it. Well, with that said, I guess we'll move on to a a more interesting AFC side on the West Division. I guess, Christian, you want to lead us off there as well?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. Number 4, I have actually the Las Vegas Raiders. I have them here just because, really, I mean, I look at it as Josh Jacobs is there. I expect him to maybe have a big year, but we hadn't really seen a lot of Josh Jacobs. Is kind of what scares me with this team. But also, I think they do have a good edge room. I'll go ahead and say I like what they're doing to this defense line and a Max Crosby. They went and got Tariq Wilson. I don't really know too much about the guy to really say if he's going to be great or not at this point because he came in with an injury. That's another guy. And then you have whatever's left in Chandler Jones. I mean, that's kind of what scares me, but they do, of course, have, to me, one of the best wide receivers in the league in a Devontae Adams, but I just think that's not enough. And then you went and added a Jacoby Myers, which is, to me, Jacoby Myers is your Hunter Renfrow already on this roster. So I think, I mean, unless you're going to align Jacoby Myers to the outside and use him in that way, I don't know. I mean, he doesn't have the speed to really burn people on the outside, but we've seen he does have the route running, and that's why, to me, him and Hunter Renfrow are kind of the same guys out there on the field. Then I think the biggest thing and why I have them at 4 is you're entering the season with Jimmy G at your quarterback. And then we have seen Jimmy G cannot play a full year. And I mean, I hope he does. I would like to see him play a full year. I think that it's really still put him kind of where I have him projected anyway. But if he does get hurt, you're looking at a Brian Hoyer, who I think we don't need to say anything about. The guy somehow has $4 million guaranteed.
Whoa.
What, man?
Aiden
You
O'Connell,
want to
man.
say
Aiden O'Connell.
yeah, or Aiden O'Connell. But with this system and Brian Hoyer being in New England as long as he has, I just think their head coaching staff and the coaching staff is going to go Brian Hoyer before they put in O'Connell. But I just think you look at this roster and take, I mean, they're top 10, and if there is a top 15 guys on this team, if you mean after that, this roster's ugly. Their corner room is not that good. It's a bunch of young guys. They've drafted high in the corner room in the past, and it's just none of it has worked. They traded all those pieces away. So I just don't see anything good coming out of this. I mean, really, the defense is what scares me more than the offense, and that's crazy to say with Jimmy G being the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you, Christian. Like it's kind of just sad. I feel for my fellow Raiders fan, Rock, if you're listening to this. They've been just churning in the middle ground for so long, and just when you miss that many draft picks, that's what's going to do it. They've yet to hit some home runs in vital positions that they need to, and when they draft, and it's they're paying the price for it. The defense worries me like crazy. Christian mentioned the corner room. I know they signed Marcus Peters, but other than that, I mean, it's him and a bunch of young guys that you hope make plays. Um, I do like the Michael Mayer pick out of Notre Dame as the tight end. I think that's a great replacement. I think he fell, and that's a nice steal there. But offense figures to be him and a lot of Devontae. I just think it still takes a step back. Not to say that Derek Carr was this great quarterback, and I think we all kind of agree he's that mid-level mid quarterback as you can be, but I still think Jimmy G's a step below. It's not maybe not a significant one, but he's a step below. And that is enough to keep them behind. Really, the only team I could have put them over is Denver. I don't think there's any shot there's over the other two, but Jimmy G being the QB is enough. As bad as Russell was last year, I think I trust him and the rest of that roster a little more than Vegas. And new coaching staff I have a little more hope for. So Vegas at 4 for me.
Yep, I agree with both you guys. I got Vegas as well at 4, and man, if I could pick one NFL team in the entire NFL to say, like, I have no idea what they're doing, that's the Raiders, man. I have no idea what their hopes and plans are. They're up against the cap. They trade Derek Carr. They signed Jimmy G. They got Josh Jacobs here, and they might give him a deal. I don't know. I don't think they should. I think they should be looking to trade and get something and start rebuilding, because by the time they're competitive in my eyes, Josh Jacobs might not be the same player. So, oh man, rough. This whole team looks rough. But if I could try to get inside the head of where the Raiders are, I would say Josh McDaniels, former Patriot offensive coordinator, right? Guess who was there? Jimmy G. Very familiar with the system, played under Brady. And I know there was some rumblings internally with the Raiders and why Derek Carr was benched in the first place was kind of because he wasn't executing the system to what Josh McDaniel desired out of his quarterback. So he went and got a guy that was familiar with the system. Can I blame him? No. Do I trust him? Also, no. So I think this offense is going to be a work in progress, to say the least. But the vision, I think, is they have Josh Jacobs. They got Zamir White. They have a halfway okay offensive line. They're going to try to run the football. And that did work very, very well last year. And then they can play action off of it, run what they're running in New England, hit, if you kind of want to picture it, Devontae Adams kind of playing that Randy Moss-esque role. And you got Jacoby Myers and Hunter Renfrow. They probably went and got Jacoby Myers just because Hunter Renfrow hadn't proven to be consistent. But that player will be kind of that Wes Welker type role, pick up the chains, move the sticks kind of position. But even that, I can't convince myself this team's any good. So their defense has holes on it as well, particularly stopping the run. They got a good edge group. They can get after the quarterback. That's not a problem. Tyree Wilson looks like the prototypical edge rusher you want in this 4-3 wide 9 defense. I mean, he's the prototype build, but that doesn't mean he will be a good player. But that's, I understand that pick. But their secondary's weak. The linebackers are weak. The whole defense is very questionable, to say the least. And in the division that they are in, they cannot afford that, because we'll touch on the other team's offense as we go forward. But this is not the division to be in with a weak secondary, to say the least. And that's what they got. I'm just not high on the Raiders whatsoever. I think they'll be picking early next year, and they'll probably pick a Alabama or Clemson player that's going to be a bust. That'd be my guess. But moving on.
Goodness. Yeah, I think we all kind of agree with. I think everyone agrees that this team's going to be at the last. But at 3, I do have the Denver Broncos. I think this team has a great secondary. And then my only question mark really is Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. What are you getting with that becoming a duo? I don't know. I know Russell Wilson has been a very me guy, and I know Sean Payton is a very no, this is my time kind of guy too. So I don't know how those two relationships are going to blend together, but they do have some great wide receivers. I just think the quarterback play has not been there for kind of put the world on notice with what they have in a Judy, KJ Hamler, and a Sutton. I mean, Judy was a 15th, I think, overall pick, and he just has not been that for them. So I just think, hopefully this year with Sean Payton coming in and kind of what we've seen with maybe a Drew Brees getting wide receivers involved, I can kind of see that offense coming over, because what happened last year, really, I don't blame it all on the coaching staff. Russell Wilson did look bad last year. I think really bad. You go back and look at the tape. There's wide receivers open on plays. He just either don't see them, or he's trying to let Russ cook, and he's not taking what's given to him. So I just don't know how to feel about Russell Wilson, and that's kind of what made me definitely think they're going to be here, but I just ultimately see him doing better than the Raiders. And other than that, their best rush guy is Randy Gregory. And I think in this division, you have to get to the quarterback with a Patrick Mahomes and a Justin Herbert. And the sad thing about Gregory is the past 6 years, he's only played 500 snaps once. But if he is on the field, that is their number one true pass rusher. And he's great when he's out there. It's just he isn't out there. The secondary is good. The linebacker room is, I guess you could say, mid. They have some pieces there, but they're just younger pieces. And the defensive line, it's not there for me to even come close to the Chargers or Chiefs. And just what Russell Wilson are we getting is the biggest question mark. But the good thing with this, if you're a Denver fan, I don't think you're going to see what happened last year of them just trying to let Russell Wilson cook all year. Sean Payton will very quickly go to the running game. And I think that's honestly what they should do with this roster. The offensive line is not there all the way, but I just have more faith in them doing run blocking. And then they have a great running back in Javonte Williams. I don't know how he came back as quick as he did, but he, I guess, is the man on that team coming back from his injury as quick as he did. And they have other pieces in that running back room, but I'm very highly on the Javonte Williams train. And that is a great running back, power guy. But I think Sean Payton may very quickly, after week 4 or 5, turn this team very quickly around into a running team.
Yeah, I'm with you, Christian. I think we may all end up having the same rankings here, but we can agree on at least we know the Raiders and Broncos are pretty comfortably tiered below the Chargers and Chiefs. I've got Denver at 3 as well, and I have them above Vegas for a few reasons. Firstly, I want to touch on just the impact players they have on the defensive side of the ball. You mentioned Gregory, who's a great pass rusher when he is on the field, but the secondary, they've been pretty tight for a few years now, and then you have the play from Justin Simmons, and one of the most talked about lockdown corners, the guy we all love, had him in our top 5 in the cornerback rankings. That's Pat Surtain. Just great pieces on defense, and you can lean on it. But my God, was this offense the worst thing I watched in football last year?
That's right.
Every freaking primetime game I saw Denver on and tried to watch them move that ball, I wanted to I'd rather watch paint dry. Like, it was bad. And they had the most punts in football for a reason last year. They could not sustain a drive to save their lives. Does Sean Payton fix that? Does he mix in the run game and get this team moving the football down the field a little more? Let the Russell Wilson, deep ball Seattle Russell Wilson come out, because he's got the guys to do it with. I've been waiting for Jerry Jeudy to break out since they drafted him. I love his route running. His whole toolbox as a wide receiver is something you drool over, because he can make a lot of plays after the catch. He can run every route. I think he's a wide receiver 1 in just about every other system with a good QB feeding him the ball. That's been his problem. He hasn't had the good chemistry with whatever quarterback carousel he's worked with, and he hasn't put up the numbers and stayed on the field to do that. If he gets unlocked this year a little bit, I think Denver plays better. I know Russ got a lot of hate last year, but you don't think that much talent just goes away overnight. Like, he's still got something there to make some deep throws and get this team to move the football a little more. So I think that's enough to put them over Vegas, I'd say pretty comfortably, but in no means do I see them fighting with the Chargers or Chiefs for this division. I think they'd be lucky to flirt with a playoff wildcard spot, in my opinion. So we'll keep them at 3 for now, and if you're a Broncos fan, just hope you see far less punts this year.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Where to start here with the Broncos? The offense, I'll get to it in a minute, but if there's a saving grace to this team, it's this defense, man. And I know you guys touched on it. They got players across the whole defense, man. The secondary, man, it's good. It's good. I don't think they're going to have a problem there. Even the second level, you got something here. Alex Singleton, Josie Jewell, proven vet players, solid. But you got a young, early pick in Drew Sanders coming. And he's got freak athleticism. I think he could really be a difference maker on the second level. And then on the defensive line, I know you guys talked about they don't have a whole lot of pass rushers. And right now, Randy Gregory, he's their number 1 guy. He's a good player. He really is. He just can't stay on the field. And then on the other side, Baron Browning, I don't know if you guys know who that is. You might be sleeping, because he's going to be good. I'm a fan. I still think they probably wish they had Bradley Chubb, but Baron Browning's going to be a good player, guys. I think he's in for a good year, especially since he'll have to probably be their number 1 guy for at least a handful of games, probably more than that. But their D-line's okay. I think it's enough to run the solid defense to Zach Allen that they want to do. They paid the bag. I don't think he's worth that. And then offensively, what I think this team needs to do, given what Russell Wilson's limitations are as a quarterback and as a player who just cannot see over the middle of the field at all. I don't know if it's a height problem or just like a mental block. It's probably a little bit of both, but he can't throw over the middle of the field. He never has. Even if you go to Seattle, you look at the heat charts, he throws the ball very well down the sidelines. He can dump the ball off short near the sidelines. He does not throw the ball over the middle of the field at all, and he never has, and he won't. He's 33, 34 years old. This guy, we know he is. So it's really on Sean Payton to structure this offense in a way that brings the most out of Russ. I don't think they'll have a problem running the football. I am slightly concerned about Javonte Williams because he didn't just tear ACL. He tore several ligaments in his knee, and he is coming back. And I am worried about a guy who is as powerful and explosive as Javonte Williams is and invites contact. How early he'll be good. And it's like I said, it's not just his ACL. He tore several ligaments in his knee. He messed it up pretty bad. And, Saquon Barkley had to take a year to become himself again. Other players had to take a year to become himself again. Although I thought really highly of Javonte Williams coming out, I didn't ever think he was an Adrian Peterson type back. You know what I'm saying? Adrian Peterson took the injury, came back, and was still one of the best athletes on the field. That's not Javonte Williams. Even though I think highly of him, but one player I think very highly of on this team is Jerry Jeudy. And I think, like you guys said, I really think this guy's good. And it's just because he's playing for Denver, he hadn't put up the numbers. I think he would have put up the numbers in most teams. And I think Sean Payton's going to give him the ball if they want to win. Like, he's a really good player. And their offensive line's good. My final thought, though, on this entire team is going forward, this is kind of what they got. They paid the bag to a bunch of mid-sufficient starter players. Russell Wilson, at best, is mid. At best is mid. Mike McGlinchey, mid right tackle. Paid him $20 million a year. Zach Allen, I think he got $20 million a year. Mid. I'm worried about this team because of all the high contracts they paid out to not high level players. And that's the cost of doing business in free agency. But man, I mean, they're going to be up against the cap, and I think they just need more playmakers. We'll see what Baron Browning is, but I know they need something in the edge group. They got guys in the secondary, like I said, and I'm not worried about that. D-line, it's all right. And then offensively, you might wish you had a little bit more in the receiver room, in my opinion. Of course, they do have Cortland Sutton. I think he's a solid player. But outside of Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, you do have KJ Hamler, but I'm not very big on him. And Tim Patrick cannot stay healthy. He got hurt again. He's probably out for the season again. I hate to see that. I did have one more player here. I'm glad I didn't forget. I don't know if you guys know about Greg Dulcich.
Yeah. The tight end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good player. I think he could be in for a breakout season as well. But, yeah, I'm just a little underwhelmed by some areas of this team, and I think ultimately they're going to crash and burn because of Russell Wilson.
Yeah. Not to beat the Broncos drum too much here. We'll move on. But I do want to throw one thing I'm looking for this offense, and that's protection. Russell had a bad year last year, but they did give up the most sacks in the league. He was on his back a lot. Part of it's because of himself not knowing when to get the football out. But that said, they've got to keep him upright way more if they want any shot at flirting with the playoffs. That's all I want to say there. We'll tie this up, but that's what I'm looking forward to next year, watching this team.
Yes, sir. They need to keep him upright.
Yeah. All right, number 2, I have to definitely be this guy. I know there's at least one guy a year that goes down this train and has to remember this, but I'm going to be that guy. I have the Chiefs at 2. It's kind of the same reason I did this last year to myself, but I just think, we know who Patrick Mahomes is. He doesn't, he could just do it by himself. He's a proven, probably the best quarterback in the league. But my big thing is, we've seen him also without an offensive line. And this year they went and got left tackle Donovan Smith, who was Brady's left tackle. And if Brady has called Patrick Mahomes and told him Donovan Smith is not going to help him, he's going to be eating the dirt a lot if he tries to go to his left side. So I just think we've seen the Chiefs kind of go without this offensive line too, but I just think, this team that I'm going to talk about, number 1, you're going to need an offensive line to stop that team. But I just think also this wide receiver room, Sky Moore is not what they drafted Sky Moore to be. Kadarius Toney is their star wide receiver. Kadarius Toney has also never been on the field for a whole season. But Kadarius Toney, I guess you can say, is their Tyreek Hill-esque player who's going to be probably doing all their gadget plays, getting him in the mist. He's their wide receiver room, which I expect Toney, if he's healthy, to probably have the best year out of all their wide receivers. Travis Kelce's on this team. I don't have to talk about Travis Kelce. We know who he is. He is their wide receiver room, or not their room, but is their wide receiver number one. But to me, it's just they have a bunch of young corners, which did play great last year, but I just see certain teams should take advantage of their young corners, and they have a good couple linebackers on this team too. But I just think this may be the year that this finally bites the Chiefs, for these wide receivers are not good enough to carry what Patrick Mahomes needs for this offense. I think, to me, their best weapons on offense is, of course, Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, and then that's when you go, who's the third guy? That's why I'm leaning towards Kadarius Toney, but I just think this team that I'm saving for last, you compare these rosters, one's definitely better than the other. Am I going to catch some heat for saying Chiefs too? Definitely. But I'm going to stand on this flag, plant it. I just see this team finishing second, and I just think this is the year that finally no offensive star power in the wide receiver room will bite them.
Yeah, I think I'm all the way out on that one. All respect given Christian, but I think I'm all the way out.
A nod of respect, seriously, Christian, because if the Ravens were in the Chiefs division, there's no shot. Like, that's how scared I am of Patrick Mahomes. Like, I fear that man like no other. And I've been struggling to, like, we're looking ahead, talking about our North rankings. I think Baltimore and Cincy's rosters match up very well. But part of me is scared to put us over Cincy because they've proven it for a few years now. Kansas City is the epitome of proving it for more than a few years. Since Patrick Mahomes took that spot at QB1, they've been the pinnacle. So the fact that you're planting your flag in the ground and sticking with your Chargers over, in our minds, one of the best football teams in the sport, salute to you. I couldn't do it. I love your Chargers, man. I do. It's just Patrick Mahomes. I'm sorry. I've got the Chargers at 2, and I'm not going to hit on too many things. We've done the Chargers preview podcast. If any of our listeners want to go check that out, we really hammered home all of our questions about this team. But just to touch on a few things, the run defense, we mentioned it, that pod, still pretty scared about it. Gave up the highest yards per carry last year. What have you done to supplement that? That said, if the offense is putting up the points the rate we think they can, I don't see many teams leaning on a run game against them. That's when your home run hitters, return of the Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa, get to the quarterback, and that bodes for a lot of wins. I'm not saying I don't think the Chargers are going to be losing a lot of games next year. In fact, I could see them in the 10 to 12 win range. I just see Kansas City as a 13-14 win range, no matter what the roster looks like, as long as Mahomes is healthy. But that said, man, a lot of respect for your Chargers team. I'll look forward. One of the most exciting teams to watch. That's not my favorite team in the sport, just because Herbert is one of those few dudes that can make every throw on the football field. And you add in the drafting of Johnson, those weapons they have outside. Just a really fun offense to watch. So I'm looking forward to some Chiefs-Chargers matchups next year. Those always provide some of the best games of the year.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm on board with you, Chase. I got the Chargers at 2, and I don't want to talk too much about this team here because I know Christian's going to go on a spill. But I did want to definitely highlight a couple things here. One thing being this offense and what it could be under Kellen Moore. This offense could be, like, potentially the best offense in the NFL. Like, they got the guys to do it. And now they got the coaching to back it up. And Justin Herbert is poised to take another step, in my opinion. I think he can be in that ballpark with Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen. I think he really has the talent to be up there with them guys. I think ultimately he's just kind of got to prove to me and the rest of the NFL that he's got the dog in him to take that next step. I think he can be a little bit conservative at times. And I don't know why. When you got a rocket for an arm like he does, I mean, absolute missile launcher, you need to just try to force things sometimes. And, maybe he can get in trouble doing something like that. Maybe that's where some of these picks have came from. But he, in general, does a very good job taking care of the ball. And I think last year it was less Justin Herbert, more offensive coordinator, weapons being hurt, Rashawn Slater being out. I think it's more because of that they targeted such a low average air distance per throw. They really funneled the offense through Austin Eckler. when Keenan Allen and Mike Williams went out. And I think adding Quentin Johnson just adds that extra element to stretch the field and give more space for Keenan Allen and Mike Williams to operate underneath and in the middle of the field. I don't think very much of Gerald Everett. I wish they would have kind of addressed the tight end position to give them another layer there. But ultimately, man, I think this offense is going to be phenomenal. Rashawn Slater come back. I mean, offense is going to be phenomenal. Defensively, I'm worried. Not because they do got good players, but they're not going to be able to stop the run, and everyone knows it. So if they're not able to get after the quarterback, they're consistently able to run the football, and they're not getting these third and longs, which is what this defense would eat on. Third and long, this defense is set. They got the edge rushers. They got secondary pieces. Maybe J.C. Jackson's a little bit of free agency flop, but they still got corners. And Derwin James is one of the best safeties out there. They can get after the quarterback. Now, the Christians talk, they might need another safety here to help on the back end, but still, this team's ready for that. And so ultimately, I just think the Chiefs are a little bit better right now. But I do think big things could be on the way for the Chargers next year, for sure. And that hurts to say. It definitely does.
Goodness. All right. At number one, I have the Chargers. I'm not going to go too deep till we already did a deep dive, but I just think Joey Bosa's looked great, man. Great. He's on a diet. I think that's going to help him a lot. He's going to be 100%. I expect Joey Bosa to play a full season this year. And if that's said, then Khalil Mack will not be the one-man workhorse he was last year. And Khalil Mack is making noise what year is it for him now? And people expected when we signed him, he's going to go down. He's not going to be the same guy. Khalil Mack has been that guy and more for us. And also, I just think what Brian said is this cornerback room is great. I think, we went in that Miami games last year, and that was our biggest talk going in that game is, the Chargers corners are all missing, da-da-da-da. Our cornerback room is built to be, it's great. I wish our wide receiver room last year was as good as, this corner room was in depth. It just wasn't. But I just think a guy I want to give a huge shout-out to on this cornerback room is Michael Davis. He is underrated. You watch the tape on this guy. Yeah. That's why I'm not so worried about the J.C. Jackson thing, because worst case scenario, we've already shown we will bench you. If someone is better than you on this roster, he's going to play. So I just think with that, my biggest question mark really with this team is, of course, the linebacker room. We also drew Tranquil. We did go in the draft and get Henley, but also Kenneth Murray has not been what we drafted him to be, and that's kind of been also he was going to be our plug runner, but he is not good at reading where the run is going, I guess is a nice way to put it. He can't go to the holes before they need to be stopped. But I've heard great things out of camp, great things in the preseason when he has been on the field. But I expect if it doesn't look great, then Henley, or kind of what we love to draft, is a guy that's been a safety, moved down to linebacker. I expect him to have a great year if we actually get him on the field. And in my last little kind of two little talking points is I just expect our offense to be better than the Chiefs. We went and got Kellen Moore. I think the reason our offense looked that bad last year is our head coach doesn't mess with the offense. So really our OC is just completely in control. And I think Kellen Moore is the perfect guy for that he's going to go to Herbert and say, listen, we're going to throw the ball. And you've seen what Dak Prescott and me did in the past. If I can make Dak Prescott do that, imagine what I can let you become and what you can do on this field. So I expect Justin Herbert to take some big shots with a Quentin Johnson, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen. And I expect hopefully these guys to all stay healthy this year. But if not, that's what Brian kind of said. We have a Quentin Johnson to kind of be our backup plan and a Joshua Palmer if we have to go to him. But also I think Eckler is going to be a very good running back this year because after this year, I believe his contract is completely up. We hadn't signed him. I don't know if we're going to re-sign him. And we've seen with Kellen Moore's teams, running backs are in the picture a lot. So I expect Austin Eckler to go out and pretty much earn his contract either from us or from another team. So I just expect electric offense, expect big things out of this running back room, even with Isaiah Spiller, who we hadn't seen much of. Unless you're in the Chargers camp or was big on him in the draft, you hadn't really hopped on the train behind that guy. But he's also very quick, has that speed to get to the next level. So I'm just excited to see this offense finally be unlocked and be what we expected to be as Chargers fans, or if you're high on them to maybe not win the division, because I know y'all are not, but this offense is good enough, I think, to let us win the division. The defense is good enough to step up and make big plays against the Chiefs or them even bigger offenses. So I love what I see on paper. Yes, I'm a Chargers fan. If you can't see me through the camera and see the background. So, yes, there's a little bit of bias here, but I'm just happy we actually got an offensive coordinator that isn't not going to want to throw the ball, kind of what they deal with in Baltimore, a guy that's honestly scared, it seems like, to do anything less than what they need to do. So I'm just happy to unlock this offense and see a full season of Justin Herbert being healthy also with a healthy offensive line.
Yeah, that's a very big point I didn't mention. Is the health of Slater, who's a great, great offensive lineman. Him being on the field is important for you guys, and I think either way, y'all are set up to put up a lot of points, but he stabilizes that unit very, very much so. And getting to my number one team, Kansas City, I think that's one of their strengths, man. They've built a great O line in front of the best quarterback in the league. They allowed the third fewest sacks last year. They were the only team over 5,000 yards passing. Like, they know what they do. They do it well. They do it a lot. They get Patrick Mahomes, letting him work his magic, get the ball to Travis Kelce a lot, scheme up some things for the gadget players they have. And I'm excited what you touched on, Christian, the use of Kadarius Toney this year. Home run trade, getting him over for when he wasn't being utilized in New York. So you saw just a glimpse of that in the Super Bowl, what he can provide this offense. I mean, the mastermind that is Andy Reid, he's not going to lack inventive ways to get that man the football. Him in space equals a lot of yards. I think you partner that with the Pacheco and the Kelce and all the other things that make this offense great. It's just going to be a lot of points scored, man. And I think, as I said, I think the Chargers are a great team. I just think worlds of Patrick Mahomes. He very well. I know we just seen Tom Brady retire, but this guy could be the next one. It's hard to put that label on someone, but I can't picture, no matter who's on offense, I can't picture an offense led by Patrick Mahomes not in the playoffs. I don't care if he is throwing the ball to practice squad guy 1, practice squad guy 2. I think he'll take him to the playoffs. He's that good, man. And the Chiefs are going to be set up for really to battle this division out with the Chargers for a long time, with these two quarterbacks now signed and battling each other. I think if you're looking for exciting football, tune in to Chargers Chiefs next year, and you'll get two of the best football games of the year. And ultimately, they may split it, but if I had to lean one team winning more and in the end winning more games, I'm going to go with the team that's been the pinnacle for the last few years, and Kansas City.
Yep. I'm with you, Chase. Patrick Mahomes, right?
That's all you got to say, man.
Come on, Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, one of the best offensive lines in football. Especially the interior trio they got with Creed Humphrey, Trey Smith, and Joe Thuney. I mean, the interior trio, that's the best interior trio in the league. Easily. And then, you got a little bit of problems here at tackle, but Patrick Mahomes is going to get his, man. He's going to run around. He's going to make stuff happen. Barring injury, it ain't going to matter, is what I'm saying. And I'm actually, intrigued by this receiver room. I think they got a number of guys that can do different things. Kadarius Toney is a freak athlete, and maybe he's not the most mentally sound player, but you don't have to be with Patrick Mahomes. He can throw you a screen pass and go. And they got to respect Patrick Mahomes' ability to stretch the field no matter who's out there, so they're not going to be pressing guys, or maybe they will if they're suicidal, but Sky Moore, I'm not ready to give up on him. I think he's got some potential, especially as a slot player. Martez Valdez-Scantling is a field stretcher, but the one guy I think has potential to be kind of the X factor on this offense is Rashee Rice, second-round pick rookie out of SMU, actually led the nation in receiving yards in his time in college, and actually is quite the underrated prospect, in my opinion. I'm high on him, and I think he could be their receiver one. He's a big physical guy. He's 6'1", 205, 210, versatile, can play He can run all kinds of different routes. He maybe need to expand his route tree a little bit because he played at SMU, but he ran a 4.54. You're not the fastest guy in the world, but physical, good at the catch point, versatile. I think he can make stuff happen when the play breaks down, when Patrick Mahomes is looking for that guy, when he breaks the pocket to hit down the field. I think this could be one of those guys. And then defensively, we all know Chris Jones, right? George Karlaftis, early pick a couple years ago or 2 years ago. Charles Menu, they brought him in, kind of be this hybrid defensive line player. And then Nick Bolton, stud linebacker. I think this is his second or third year coming out of Mizzou. But then you got Drew Tranquil, very good player as far as coverage middle linebackers go. And then, I'm a little worried about the secondary here. They do have Justin Reed in the safety room, which is a good player. Trick McDuffie, young player. We'll see kind of what that looks like. But the Chiefs' defense has always started out slow, and then they figure things out. And I have no reason to think they won't figure things out, because they do every single year. Even the offense has started slow, and they figure things out. I think that's a testament to Andy Reid as a coach, but also to Patrick Mahomes. And I really don't want to say anything else about Patrick Mahomes, man, personally. But he's a great player, no doubt. And I think they really should be, at least in my mind, they're the favorites to win the Super Bowl. So, that's the AFC West, man.
Nailed it.
I mean, I could go find what we thought was going to happen last year before we head into the season.
I know I picked the Chiefs. We'd be shocked if I didn't. But was Christian on the Chargers one train last year, and were you or no?
No, I was not. I'm looking right now.
He will be this year after week 1.
Okay. Yeah. But anything else, guys? I'm looking for that.
Nah, I mean, just this team. You subtract Tyreek Hill, who we all agree was a bona fide top 4 receiver, top 3. You would think the offense takes a step back. It didn't. It's Patrick Mahomes. It doesn't matter who he's throwing the ball to, man. That his connection with Travis Kelce is the best from any QB, wide receiver, tight end, whatever in the league. And when you can lean on that to get you first down after first down, that's how you wind up making deep playoff runs. And I really expect no less. If you want to get to the Super Bowl, you want to win a Super Bowl, which all of our good rosters with young QBs want to achieve, you're going to have to beat this team. And until it happens, that's where we're at.
Yep. So last year, for the NFC West, me, Christian, and Chase all had the Rams winning the division.
Off a Super Bowl, no surprise really though.
Yeah, but geez, man, didn't see that coming. Cardinals, me and you, Chase, picked them to finish second.
Oh,
thank you.
Christian picked the 49ers to finish second, but he did pick the Cardinals to finish third. Man. And then we all picked Seattle to finish last. And I remember last year, I planted my flag saying Seattle was going to fall apart, this and that. They weren't going to be good. They were going to be,
dang.
Here goes the show, man. Woof.
Oh,
and then the AFC West, Christian did pick the Chargers to go first. We picked the Chiefs, Chase. Christian had the Raiders finishing second above the Chiefs as well.
God, we talk about the New York Jets hate from Brian. God, where did Patrick Mahomes hurt you, Christian?
Tyreek Hill, man. Yeah, Tyreek Hill leaving, man. That's what it was. I seen Devontae Adams go to the Raiders.
Yeah. You didn't learn your lesson still.
Oh, my God.
Man.
It happens. We'll revisit this one next year and see the same thing.
Yeah, I had the Broncos at second, so above the Chargers. That's pretty rough too. So,
well, who knows, man? We could maybe Russ surprises us this year, and we could be looking back on this spot in a year's time, and Sean Payton worked his magic, and somehow the Denver Broncos won 11, 12 football games, and we're like, Well, we just heard ourselves talk about. I'm not saying it's likely, but
I can't.
it's the NFL. You know, things happen, injuries happen. There's always going to be a shock or two. I don't necessarily see it being either of these divisions, but we'll just have to revisit.
It's crazy how that works, and you can be confident as all get out. And by week 3, your whole opinion has changed about everything.
Yeah.
But does anyone have anything else before we close?
Happy it only took one take.
For real. For real.
Amen to that, bro.
I am glad we're not talking about the AFC and NFC South. Jeez Louise. But I believe that concludes the pod today. Thank everyone for coming in and listening. Continue to post on social media and our YouTube. We thank everybody for the support we've been receiving there, and hopefully we continue to grow this thing and have everyone here with us. Thanks, and see you next time.
Peace.
Peace.